Stig, Abel.
And it's now 9:14. Let's discuss some of this morning's stories with Maurice Mcleod, social commentator and chief executive of the social policy charity Race on the Agenda. Morning to you, Maurice.
Good morning.
And both there, you're both sounding healthy. Fantastic. Let's talk about A-levels, shall we? Day 2, fallout from yesterday's A-level results continues. The government trying to restore faith in its education policy, much battered really over the last year. The Times reports this morning that the Education Secretary Gavin Williamson could be replaced by Treasury Minister Kemi Badenoch at the next reshuffle. And today we're having our own cabinet reshuffle and making you two the new education secretaries. Right, Maurice, you're first up. What changes would you introduce across the entire education department?
Gosh, well, first off, I think that we massively need to reverse the underfunding that's happened in the state education system for decades, as we've seen the sort of gap between what happens at private schools and what happens at state schools get bigger and bigger, and that's been highlighted, to be honest, in these results again. While we've got such an unlevel playing field, we really struggle to nurture equality. I'm afraid. So I'd be reversing those cuts, but I'd also be doing something. I'm afraid I would take away the charitable status from private schools as well. I think it doesn't really make sense that they're granted this sort of charitable status when they only really help a small section of society. I'd also look at the curriculum. I think there's been a lot of talk about decolonising the curriculum, but I think we just need a curriculum that is relevant to today's world, that both looks in a nuanced way at our history, but also sets young people up for the actual world of work that they're going into.
And Maurice, if you could pick anyone, it doesn't even have to be someone in politics right now, anyone to be a modern education secretary, who would it be?
Oh, can I have Marcus Rashford? I'd love to.
Yeah, go for it.
Question of vaccination boosters. Britain has ordered 35 million doses of the Pfizer coronavirus vaccine for next year's autumn booster campaign, but when the government announced a £1 billion deal for the doses this week, there will be some backlash, or at least eyebrows raised, perhaps. Maurice, we spoke to an immunologist earlier today, Danny Altman from Imperial College, and I said to him, if you could boost people in this country, third or fourth jabs, or give those jabs to people around the world, which is actually better, leaving aside morals and ethics, which is actually better in terms of managing the pandemic. And he actually said it's better to vaccinate more people globally than increase the immunity of people already in this country. We should be giving those vaccinations elsewhere. Where do you stand on that?
I absolutely agree. We're going through a global pandemic, and I think if we forget that and try and act just in our own national interests, or what we perceive to be our own national interests, we'll come a cropper, because what will happen is, while we're all sitting here feeling nice and comfortable and on our third or fourth jabs, there'll be vast swathes of the world where they've had nothing. In those places, the variants will be nurtured that come back and undermine our vaccines. We need to think globally. We should be taking away the intellectual property rights and allowing people to now make as much of this vaccine as they want, rather than sort of, giving them a few crumbs off the West's table.
Three-course meal with this story. Breaking news, women can wear trousers at the Henley Royal Regatta for the first time in its 182-year history. The dress code for ladies at the event is a dress or a skirt with the hemline below the knee. We don't want to see anything above the knee, while men must wear a lounge suit or trousers with a jacket or blazer. Blown away that this actually still exists, or that it did exist. Maurice, is there a place for dress codes?
I had to look at my calendar just to make sure it was actually 2021. There's, you know what? There are some occasions where people want that. There's a tradition of looking particularly smart or what have you, and I'm okay with that, saying you need to dress to a certain standard, or you need to dress well, or you can't turn up in your tracksuit bottoms and trainers to something. But saying women have to wear skirts and then what's worse than that, actually saying how much of their leg they need to show for men to be happy is really archaic.
About guys, because we've been talking this morning quite a lot about returning to normality, and we're all moving at different speeds. I never go to nightclubs, so I'm not going to start going now. But there is this question now: people are going to try and have more fun, go out and about a bit more. We get to work about 3:30 in the morning, and this last week, a couple of times I've driven past places where there's still people out in the streets partying outside of nightclubs at 3:30 in the morning. One was on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Like, well done. Maurice, are there things you've done? Is there anything that you've said, right, we're starting to come out of this, I've been vaccinated, I feel a bit safer, I'm now doing some stuff?
Oh, I've been chomping at the bit. I've been doing everything I'm allowed to do, basically. So I've been to the cinema and theatre, and I went to see a brilliant play. I forgot how much I just like being out and being social. I'm going to a sort of all-day music festival in a few weeks' time, assuming that sort of goes ahead and is okay. So yeah, all of it, basically. Give me as many people to be near and to interact with as possible, please.
We just had Libby Purvis giving us her recommendations of the theatre she'd been to see. Was it any good what you saw? Is it a recommendation you want to pass on?
It was great. It was called Constellation. It was a two-person play at the Vaudeville in London. Really, really good and mind-bending, multiverse type stuff.
Great stuff.
Because I was saying to Stig earlier that I went to the cinema with my daughter last week, the week before, and I was the only person in the cinema with a mask. Obviously, you don't have to wear a mask anymore; it's voluntary. But I felt a bit weird that there were people they weren't sitting next to me, but they're very near me. And I mean, they might be vaccinated, they might not, they might be carrying an infection, and there's no barrier between us, and I felt a bit weird. So what did you do? Did you wear a mask in the cinema? Did anyone else? Did you feel safe?
I did wear a mask. Again, most other people weren't, and I have to admit I was a little bit surprised by how close everyone was sitting to me, because the social distancing rules were gone. We've just learnt to be very nervous about each other, haven't we? And so I'm afraid that is probably going to be a hangover for a while. But I felt nervous at first. I did feel a bit like, oh, you're breathing near me. I need to get over that, don't I?
It's going to take some time, I think.
Yeah.
I do think that. And yeah, I suppose it's just, all the stuff about being pinged. I know that's going to change on the August the 16th in England anyway, in terms of what you have to do. But it is still that thing that, someone near you could test positive and then you're going down that particular spiral. Anyway, Maurice, thank you so much. Maurice Mcleod, social commentator, chief executive of the social policy charity Race on the Agenda.